Next two questions are, actually I'm glad David Bach is here because these questions may actually be editor questions, but they're sort of publisher questions. One is...
I'll let him answer them.
Well, I think the first one you probably need to answer, second one you can probably answer. First question is, Hilo Tribune-Herald has an editor, West Hawaii Today does not list an editor. Is there going to be an editor for West Hawaii Today?
That's a secret. I haven't even talked to David about it. That's a fair question. It's something that goes back to, frankly, the question that we were talking about earlier of having commingling the stories and back and forth between, some of that is because we have one person that's editorial-wise running both. It's an investment, but it's something we'll take a look at, and we've got a lot of time. But I think if I had my druthers and it wasn't something that was too significant on the cost side, I would definitely probably have an editor for both.
The second question has to do with editorial writing, and actually this is a question that I was going to ask Dennis anyway when I do my interview, but and this is not part of the question that was submitted, but the Star-Advertiser really does a good job of writing locally written editorials, and editorials, as we all know, can influence government actions, influence people's thinking about key issues. Neither the Hawaii Tribune-Herald nor West Hawaii Today write editorials, nor have they for a few years. What is the plan to perhaps change that policy, because editorial view is important?
Yeah, I certainly agree. Again, it goes back to cost. There's more staffing of whether we can get a reasonable return on that. And sometimes you can't get a return on everything. It's just an investment to our readership. So it's a decision we have to look at down the road. I wouldn't promise we would, certainly that we're going to do that, but I also wouldn't rule it out. Because I agree with you. I think a good editorial section is really viable for a newspaper.
Sir, isn't it the editor's job to write an editorial for the newspaper? Isn't it common?
No, not at all.
In every newspaper I've worked at, it has been true, sir.
Nope, not true. Editor runs the newsroom. Typically, I'll tell you, like the Star-Advertiser, our vice president of news, Frank Bridgewater, he doesn't even sit on the editorial board. It's total conflict. I have the editorial page editor, Lucy Yamada. She reports directly to me. She doesn't report to Frank Bridgewater. The editorial staff reports through her to me, and it's totally separated from the news, so we can avoid any conflict. There are papers that do it differently, as you described, but it's probably, to be honest, it's probably 50-50. And you can make a good argument for both ways, to be honest. I think the way we do it is better, but the editor is in charge of from my viewpoint, in charge of the newspaper editorially, and you don't want to run into conflict with news judgment when you're writing an opinion, and that's a big difference.
Are there other questions from the floor? Since I'm reading all these, okay. Plans to buy? Yes.
I think that the question
yes.
that came to my mind as saying that is that then the conflict is, as I would see it, as a reader might see it, or a blind journalist would see it, that the conflict then comes between the publisher, the business arm, and protecting the advertisers, and the editorial.
What Barbara said was she sees the conflict is between the publisher, who's responsible for the business side, the revenue, and the editorial side, which is theoretically completely divorced from that.
Well, the publisher is responsible for all of it. So news, revenue side, and there's never going to be a perfect scenario, a perfect world answer to that. You can always run it down to the last peg. But some of it you're just going to have to use your own judgment and see throughout as you read the newspaper on a daily basis to see whether you think that that's occurring or not. But I would say for the most part, I don't believe that happens, but I know I don't. But you know, most of the editorials I read every day. I read them all. They have to come to me. I weigh in on probably 5% of them. 95% go as they come to me. But you know, it is one of my responsibilities is to make certain that what we are writing as a viewpoint and opinion of the newspaper is indeed something that I support. You know, and sometimes not everyone is fully aware of all the facts, and perhaps that I might be. You know, so that's one of my responsibilities.